everyone, it's James.
And Stephanie, and you all probably know that we have been traveling in Parky here, who is a special Travato on loan to us from Winnebago. So today we want to share with you something that we think is really clever, and it's not unique to Parky, and it's not even unique to just Travatos.
That's right, it's this new future-proof kind of feature that Winnebago is installing in some of their coaches. It's a roof access port.
Yes.
So rather than build in like today's Wi-Fi booster, today's cell booster, satellite antenna, whatever, Winnebago has made it really easy for the end user, like me, to install whatever they want. And so then next year when the technology changes and all your stuff is obsolete, it's super easy to install a new one.
So like for James and I, we both work from the road, and we've pretty much given up on campground Wi-Fi because it's always terrible and it's so unreliable. So that means for us, a cell booster is not only important, it's pretty much a necessity.
Right, and the roof port makes it really easy to install one.
Without having to drill any holes in the roof of your RV, which I would always be paranoid about leaking if we were to do that.
When have I ever done any project that results in a leak? Anyway, so today I'm going to show you how easy it is to use the roof port to install a cell booster. I'm going to be installing one from WiBoost, and you're coming along for the ride. I'm going to try to give you some tips along the way.
Good, and while he is installing, I'm going to be filming, so are you ready to get to work?
I'm always working. Let's go. Okay, so first things first, I want to show you what I'm going to be installing. And here is our cell booster. Now, there's a whole lot of parts to it, but the way it works basically is there is an external antenna, which will be this guy. There is an internal antenna, which will be this guy. And then there's a booster, which sort of relays the signal between the two. So the external antenna is kind of the important piece for the roof port, because we've got this cable that comes off the external antenna, and then there's a 25-foot extension cable, and then it's got to connect to the booster box, which is on the inside. So this cable, this, is what's going to be going through the roof port. So that's what we're installing. Okay, so here's the roof port that makes all this kind of really easy. And the whole thing consists of really just two parts. Well, two parts in a hole through the roof. There's this part on the outside, which is just a plastic box. And the idea is you drill a hole into the plastic box and you fish whatever you need down into the inside, and they've taken care of the hard part of sealing up the roof opening for you. So that's the outside part. Let's show you the inside part. And then there's this port here on the inside, which is basically just a cover for that, that's the other end of that hole on the outside. And it's right near a cubby that's got like power and a place to mount whatever you need. And there's a little pass-through here. Hello. Pass-through, so you can run wires from in here where you've got power and connections all the way up to the roof. So here are the main tips I can give you for drilling this hole. First tip is to keep the hole as small as possible without making things too difficult on yourself. So basically what you want to do is you want to measure what needs to go into that hole and make your hole just slightly bigger than that. So in this case, here's the cable that needs to go into the hole. And if I measure this, it comes out to 5/16 at its widest point. So I'm going to go 1/16 bigger than that, and I'm going to drill a 3/8 inch hole. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is to drill the hole on the aft side, the stern side, the back of the box. And the reason for that should be really obvious when you think about a driving rainstorm and driving forward at 50 miles an hour. You want to give yourself every chance you can to keep water from not getting into your hole. So that's tip number two. Tip number three is to use a center punch. That's one of these things. Now what this does is you kind of press it in, and it's spring loaded, and it'll make a little point into the box. And what that does is it makes a little indentation, and that will keep your drill bit from skittering about on the surface of the box and drilling where you don't want a hole. It also works really great for drilling into metal. If you ever actually did want to drill into a metal van, that works great. And then the fourth thing, and this is absolutely the most important tip in this entire video, and that is to use the correct kind of drill bit. And for this application, that means a spade bit with spurs on the outside. Trust me, take this from someone who has ruined more than his fair share of plastic parts. This is the kind of drill bit you want to use. Don't use one like this, a regular twist bit. You might get that to work, but you're going to be much more assured of success if you use a spade bit with the spurs on the outside. And so with all that said, there's nothing left to do but drill the hole. Here we go. It's kind of tight up here. All right, that's it. Okay, and now with the hole drilled, there you can see it, it's time to fish this through and then go look for it from the inside. All right, let's go in. All right, so now I'm just gonna remove this cover. And feel around for the cable. Okay, and here is the other end of the cable through the box. All right, now let's go back up and finish up top. Okay, another tip is to leave yourself enough slack. So now in this case, I'm gonna kind of mount the antenna sort of back behind where the camera is, and that is like 4.5, we'll call it 5 feet away from the box. But let's say something goes wrong and like the reception's no good back there or something. So I want to mount it up on the front of the van. So that seems to be about 6 feet away from the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave myself 6 feet of slack. The way I'm going to ensure that is I'm going to take this end of the cable, I'm going to measure off 6 feet, and I'm going to wrap a little piece of tape around it, and then I'm going to pull it through on the inside until I hit the tape on the outside of the box, and then I'll know I've got 6 feet of slack left. So here we go. And it's also super helpful at this point if you've got someone who can go inside and actually pull the cable for you, so you can stay up here and help feed it. So Steph, go ahead and pull the cable slowly. And stop. And there we go. Okay, and inside things are pretty easy. You just pop the center out of this roof access port, feed the cable through, and then you can screw this inside cover back on. Ta-da. Okay, so I've got the cable run, that's all secured. I've hooked up the rest of the booster, which includes this indoor antenna, the booster itself, and the power. And so it's a good idea at this point to test things out and make sure everything's working before you go up with silicone and start sealing stuff up, because it's a lot harder to undo or redo at that point. So right now I've got a cell phone here with 2 bars of service. Let's power it up and see if we get 3 bars. 3 bars? All right, well, we got 1 more bar of service. So cool, looks good. So now we can go up top and seal up the hole up top. Okay, now about sealing up this hole in the back of this box. If you followed my very first tip, this hole isn't really any bigger than it needs to be, so sealing it up shouldn't be that bad. And you don't need to do anything elaborate, like you don't have to scour the 3M catalog for some sort of exotic marine sealant or anything like that. I'm going to use plain old home center silicone. Since it's not an exotic sealant, I don't have to worry it's going to melt the insulation on the outside of the cable there. Plus, it's what I had on hand and I know it works. So all I got to do is dab some in there, make sure it's sealed up to the box, and then the hardest thing for me is to just leave it alone while it cures. So here we go. And there you have it. Installing items on your RV's roof made easy by Winnebago's new roof access port.
Yep, so easy you finish with enough time left to put in a decorative backsplash.
Who said anything about a decorative backsplash?
Come on.